All right. Hopefully this works okay. Got some pretty big news here, obviously. We all woke up to the United States pulling off a huge, incredible mission. Yeah. Maduro has been captured. And we are going to be listening to a press conference here pretty soon. In about 30-ish minutes, I figured I'd go live and see what's going on. For those of you who are unaware, I used to cover geopolitics extensively before I started politics. So let's see what happens. Let's see who joins. If you guys are joining, make sure to please like the stream. Hopefully everything is working okay. And then we can go through some reactions, see what's going on. But yeah, I typically don't go live this early. I think there's a lot of other people going live as well, so I am curious who will actually be awake. I still think there's a lot of people who are asleep and have no idea what's going on. What's up, Kevin? Let's go ahead and just watch this first reaction. Again, when you guys are joining, make sure to please like the stream. Helps out a ton. And let's start with this. This is the reaction from the Mexican president. I'm still sleeping. I know, everyone's still sleeping.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico. And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. They like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people. And we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way.
Yeah, thank you guys for all being here. Good morning. Again, make sure you guys are liking the stream so the other T-SPLY subscribers can see what's going on. Somebody left a really good comment. Well, you guys are all leaving good comments, but Zach said, I wonder how the Democrats and left are going to try and spin this some way against Trump. I talked to some people who are really big in this space specifically. I have always been paying attention to what's happening here, and it is going to be interesting to see what people are going to be upset about or even happy about, because I am not convinced a lot of Americans actually know what has fully been happening in Venezuela outside of like the narco stuff or the drug stuff. I mean, this has massive implications as far as, hey, Russia and China, we can pull this off, just so you guys are aware. So if you want to ever try something fishy or sketchy, we do have this ability. Not disability, this ability. Let me know where you guys are at. Where are you guys watching this from? And again, make sure you guys are please liking. It helps out a ton. Thank you guys so much. We are waiting for this broadcast. Oh, yeah. But there is a lot of like, we started a war. We're about to go to war. That is not what's happening here. At all. There's a few notable politicians who are really making this a big deal, which is, I understand. Like, we are allowed to criticize or question things, but at times I feel like the United States, its own detriment, is the United States when it comes to pulling off missions like this. Shout out Portland. I think Cam responded to it. Cam Higby. Where is it? There is a politician, I think he's from Arizona. I'm trying to find him, where he was like really getting a lot of crap. Let me check his replies. What do you guys all think about this? Do you think it was a good thing? Do you think it was a bad thing? Yeah, Ruben. Mr. Ruben. Shout out Britain. So, war. Ruben Gallo, senator from Arizona, keeps referring to this as a war. I am a U.S. Marine combat veteran that saw his best friend die because of bootlickers like you. So who's in charge of Venezuela now? I fought in some of the hardest battles in the Iraq War, saw my brothers die. So now he's like just really popping off on people who are calling him out for calling this a war. And by the way, I was also in the U.S. military and the Army in the 101st Airborne. Second unjustified war in my lifetime. This war is illegal. It's embarrassing. So when we start to see a lot of the reactions on X from the big social media influencers on the left-leaning side and politicians, 100,000% this is going to be the narrative. 100,000%. I guarantee it. But it also goes to show I don't think a lot of people actually knew what was going on. Can you call Maduro a dictator? Yes, Maduro is a dictator. This isn't some magic word that makes war justified. What war? All the comments are, what war? What are you talking about? Interesting. Also, Jackson Hickle's very upset about this. But yeah, I do find it interesting. Trump is, he's all over Fox News right now.
And his wife are.
He's doing the press conference before the press conference.
Can you tell us where Maduro and his wife are right this second?
Well, they'll be heading to New York. You know, they were indicted in New York, and also.
So are they taken to a ship first, and then?
Yes, the Iwo Jima. They're on a ship, but they'll be heading into New York. The helicopters took them out. And they went by helicopter in a nice flight. I'm sure they loved it.
Yo, Trump is trolling right now, dude. President Trump, before his press conference going on, it's almost like he's just talking to his boys before he does his press conference.
They've killed a lot of people. Remember that. They killed a lot of people. And
a lot of Americans.
Even people in their own country. They killed a lot of people to maintain power. He's a very vicious person.
Yeah, the videos coming out of Venezuela, I mean, they are hype right now.
Because
I mean, we can pretty much get the exclusive before the press conference through the Fox News press conference.
It just was the right time to do it. We had to do it because it's a war. We're losing 300,000 people a year. We don't lose that much in a war. Okay, if you look. And we had to do it. But he was in a house that was more like a fortress than a house. It had.
And by the way, for those of you who are interpreting President Trump saying this is a war, he's obviously talking about not in a literal sense, but also in the sense of we have lost so many American citizens. You can consider what has been happening on our home front a war. But of course, in my opinion, this is already getting twisted into, see, he's calling it a war.
Steel doors. So fast that he didn't get into that. We were prepared. We had, massive blowtorches and everything else that you need to get through that steel, but we didn't need it. He didn't make it to that area of that.
Yeah, those are the engineers right there. I was a combat engineer with the blowtorches, but I'm sure they also had some other devices ready to go if that door needed to come down. Hello, everybody. Good to see you guys. Make sure you are please liking the stream. I think a lot of people are sleeping and still waking up and not knowing what's going on.
Hey, loyal.
Let's just go through this. Thank you guys for being here, and let me know what you think about this. Do you think it was a good move or a bad move?
Well, if they stay loyal, the future is really bad. It's really bad for them. If they convert, there's a conversion factor. I would say most of them have converted. He's had very little loyalty. In fact, I noticed that today that some people are marching on the street waving flags, and they're very in support. They have American flags being waved on the streets. So, I mean, I think he's got very little support. Look, he was a dictator that the people hated. So I don't see a lot of that. I don't think we're going to see.
Yeah, really good comment here. Misfit said, all that military posturing just to get collected by Special Forces. And that is what Special Forces does, people. We always get told Special Forces has the ability to regime change. We always get told that. It's in the textbooks. It's in the documentaries. It's in all the podcasts and interviews we see on Joe Rogan when those Special Forces guys goes on there. Turns out it's true. Turns out that actually can happen, and it can happen in hours. Yeah. The audacity. Trump just called it a war. You're saying it's not a war. Well, first thing, audacity, what country are you from, just so I know how to explain this to you? As far as, like, I need to know if you understand, like, not sarcasm, but not talking in a literal sense, because that actually does matter as far as language is concerned, because most people in the United States, we grew up in something, everything is called a war in the United States: war on terror, war on drugs, war on food, war on this, war on that. Great. Okay, perfect. So then you would understand that this has always been called the war on drugs. So
these are weak, stupid people, and they're trying to save themselves from almost destroying our country. If I didn't get elected, our country would not. I don't even think we'd have a country right now. We were heading down the path of destruction. We had inflation. We had high prices. They're the ones that caused high prices, not us. We're bringing the prices way down. We have oil now in many places $1.99 a gallon.
yeah, I agree. Good point to Google. At least they got him alive. That to me is a massive W and a great thing, because now we get to hear Maduro's side of how all this went down. And so I do think that that's huge to get somebody alive. It's way harder to do that than to just take them out.
Alan. And, you know, when you do oil, everything follows, but everything is following. But, no, they would have destroyed our country. If we didn't get elected, if Kamala or a Joe type got elected, if that group got elected, but if Kamala got elected, I don't think at this point we would even have a country. We were laughed at all over the world. The money was flowing out. Everybody was leaving. The companies were leaving. The people were leaving. The wealth was leaving. We have $18 trillion coming back into our country, the biggest number in the history of the world. The second biggest number was $3 trillion. We're at $18 trillion, and it's building factories and plants. It's doing things that no country has ever seen before. But as far as last night is concerned, it was really genius. What they did is genius. And the Democrats, maybe they'll take a shot. You know, they'll take a shot. All they do is complain.
Yeah, I mean, that is what I am very curious to see. So if you are new here, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. I 100% want to see what the outcry is going to be, or what the political narrative spin is going to be. Again, I am not saying we are not allowed to question the U.S. Obviously we can, and we are always allowed to question. Stuff like this is a really big deal. We cannot downplay what this means. We just did something huge. So you are allowed to say, okay, hold on, was this the right thing to do? But we just know how it works in the media, and depending on what side of the coin you're on, it's always this generic narrative, and it always seems to be like Trump has never done anything right, it seems like, from one political ideology.
They don't talk about, they should say, you know what, we did a great job. We're stopping drugs from coming into this country, and nobody's been able to do it until we came along. But they should say, great job. They shouldn't say, oh, gee, maybe it's not constitutional. You know, the same old stuff that we've been hearing for years and years and years. They did an incredible job. These men and women that went out there last night, the courage they had, going into an area where, you know, all...
And I'm sorry, to the one guy who's trying to convince me that this is a bad thing, my dad is from communist Romania. They tried to send him to a special camp because he was a Christian. You're going to have a very hard time convincing me that going after someone like this was a bad move. I'm just going to be honest with you. I really try not to be overly biased in my videos, and I usually don't ever really tell you guys a lot about my personal life, but yeah, I do have a dad who had to escape communism because they were trying to put him in a camp because of people like this man. So to the one guy in the chat, I appreciate your comments, but I'm just letting you know those are not the greatest talking points in my opinion.
The lights were turned off. We turned off almost all of the lights in Caracas. I mean, this thing was so organized, and they go into a dark space with machine guns facing them all over the place, and then you hear from a guy that I'd never even heard of him.
I'm a Christian too, dude. It's just a question. Would this be an act of war? No, it wouldn't.
but you hear from some
And God bless you. Thank you for everything.
congressman saying, "Oh, this is so terrible." We're saving lives. And by the way, the boats, every boat, because that's sort of related to this, every boat that we hit saves 25,000 lives. These are.
There you go. Yeah, I think Joe Rogan was getting a lot of flack here recently because he, on his podcast, showed a statistic that showed the decrease of the people losing their lives due to drugs in the United States from these strikes, the boat strikes. Direct correlation. I don't know where Joe Rogan got those stats, but it was I don't know if you guys saw that either. Rather interesting. The audacity says, if the Russian military captured the U.S. president, it wouldn't be considered an act of war? ? I will let you guys respond to that comment.
Tremendous numbers of people were being killed through drugs. And what they did to our country in sending prisoners and men.
Why are these people defending Nicolás Maduro? I don't know if the audacity is defending him. I cannot tell.
So people from mental institutions and drug lords. And
I would be very curious. They are saying they are a Christian, allegedly. I have to believe you because you say you are. If he would ask these questions in front of all the other Christians, I would be very curious if he would ask that in Venezuela in front of the other Christians.
Everything. They send them by the hundreds of thousands of people into our country. And that is just
And that's another good point. I mean, we, as the United States, we never even recognized him as a president.
Unforgivable. That's why, he wanted to negotiate at the end, and I didn't want to negotiate. I said, nope, we got to do it. He was trying to negotiate at the end. You probably saw that. And trying hard to make a deal. And I said, this could have been a very foolish thing if it didn't work out. But I said, nope, we can't do it.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been bad. Hey, thank you to Tripping for the $5 donation. Hello, my brother in Christ. I love your channel. You deliver fair and smart content, helping people understand this is crazy world. God bless. And God bless you as well. And like I said, thank you so much for the donations. You guys obviously do not have to do that. I do appreciate it. Look, I always advocate for peace on every single video I make. I always say, please pray for peace. But in situations like this, sometimes it has to get done in order to have more peace. It's just a simple fact.
What he did with drugs is bad. What he did with a lot of other things is bad. But what he did was...
But we have to be honest here. We don't know what's going to happen. Again, we have no idea what's going to happen on the ground if we're going to see... I hate to use the word regime change, but as the United States never officially even recognized this election. And correct me if I'm wrong... When the numbers came out, I'm almost positive the other person actually won. That was what was being reported.
Sending.
And by the other person, I mean the competition.
Hundreds of thousands of Tren de Aragua and drug dealers. And they emptied out their jails into our country. They emptied out, if you think about it, they emptied out all of their mental institutions into our country. What he did there, and every other thing, is unforgivable.
Yeah, and by the way, this is not the press conference. This is just President Trump going on Fox News and talking to Fox News. So, I mean, everything we're listening to right now, it seems like that's what the press conference is going to be. So I have no idea what he's going to say. This is T-SPLY. He's been doing lots of stuff since early Ukraine war. Yes, I've been, I used to be a geopolitical commentator well before I was a political commentator. I did geopolitics for 2 years. I specifically talked about African conflicts, but believe it or not, this does actually cross-correlate with Russian influence and Chinese influence into Venezuela. One thing I'm noticing is many people are talking about the drug aspect. I am seeing nobody talk about the China-Russia aspect and how big of a deal that is. That's a very big posturing towards them to be like, just so you guys know, we actually do have the ability to go into a country you think you have influence in. We can go in there right now and we can change things if we need to, or take care of the people that you're working with. Yeah, huge implications. Yeah, the conference should be in 10 minutes. I keep looking down to the side to watch the stream we're going to be looking at. Yeah, this is not the press conference. Again, to reiterate, this is President Trump warming up before the press conference is what it seems like. And again, make sure you guys are please liking the live stream so the other T-SPLY subscribers can see what's happening and we can all hang out.
Well, it wasn't meant to be, and we're very friendly with her. She's a good woman, but the cartels are running Mexico. She's not running Mexico. The cartels are running Mexico.
Yeah, there's already a little bit of a negative connotation happening from Mexico.
And we could be politically correct and be nice and say, oh, yes, she is. No, she's very, she's very frightened of the cartels. They're running Mexico. And I've asked her numerous times, would you like us to take out the cartels? No, Mr. President. No, please. So we have to do something because we lost. The real number is 300,000 people, in my opinion. They like to say 100,000. 100,000 is a lot of people, but the real number is 300,000 people. And we lost it to drugs, and they come in through the southern border, mostly the southern border. Plenty come in through Canada, too, by the way.
Oh, yeah. And I think Stephen Miller had some stuff to say. Let me see. Not Stephen Smith. I'm sure he does, too. Give some sports analysis while we're at it. I'm almost positive he had... I guess that won't work. You have to do this. Yep.
Sean.
All right. Stephen Miller. Here's what he has to say. Here's the Stephen Miller press conference. Stephen Miller is always on it.
For your audience perfectly, Sean. This was not a loophole. The Biden administration, Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, devised a scheme to fly illegal aliens into the country and then to escort them en masse across the border by the millions and to give them something known as parole, which gives them a work permit, which gives them a social security number, which gives them access to the voting.
I know, and for those of you saying he's calling it a war, I don't know how to explain it to you that this is what it has always been called for the longest time ever. Everything gets called a war, but if you cannot identify this is not a war in the sense of signed off by Congress, I don't know how to explain that to you. I am sorry. I am just assuming a lot of you know that this has always been called a war in the sense of how many people have lost their lives. You can compare it to a war. So if you don't understand that, I apologize. I'm doing my best to explain it to everyone.
This was the plan all along, to get them here illegally so they can get free government benefits, get hooked to welfare, and be able to participate in American elections. This was an attack on democracy by the Democrat Party. It's the same attack that we see, Sean, when you have California, a sanctuary state, that is refusing to turn over even illegal alien criminals and gang members to ICE. So these are illegal aliens in California who have been arrested by California police, by California law enforcement for serious crimes, for crimes against children, for felonies, for crimes that threaten public safety, and they are refusing to hand these criminal illegal aliens over to ICE. Instead, they're freeing them back into the cities to offend and offend again.
Okay. Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller has always been on California. We actually don't hear too much about California when I do a lot of research and investigation into what's happening with their ICE pushback, Homeland Security pushback. They've been very, very quiet. Military experts on Argentine news confirmed that Maduro placed half of the Venezuelan army on Christmas leave, believing President Trump was only bluffing to attack. Again, I don't know if that's true, but might as well see what this is about. Who would do that? If that is true, that is insane. I mean, that is like history books type insane.
Esta duda, ¿no? Porque frente a un probable ataque de Estados Unidos.
Again, in my opinion, I don't even know if this is true. I'm just going to put that disclaimer out there right now. That seems too good to be true. And when it's too good to be true, I mean, I don't know.
Le da el feriado navideño a la mitad de la milicia. Es raro.
Sí. No, no es raro. Le voy a decir por qué. Ellos venían insistiendo muchísimo en que no iba a ocurrir ninguna operación, porque además no solamente en el aspecto militar, sino también en el político, le decían a la gente en toda la estructura del Partido Socialista Unido.
Yeah, again, I don't know if that's true. It seems too good to be true to say he put his whole military on leave. And a lot of this obviously is in their native language, so we won't be able to understand a lot of it. But there are a lot of clips and videos coming out of Venezuela right now of people very happy, obviously. Again, we are waiting for this press conference. It should be happening in several minutes. Yeah, and that's the thing. Chuck says, you know it's true because dictators can be very cocky. You know damn well he thought Trump was bluffing. And hey, when you do look at military history and you look at the fall of empires and militaries, a lot of times it has to do with arrogance, being cocky, and thinking you're the best. So that's the other side here. That's why that could be true, but it's almost too good to be true. So I'm on the fence there. I'm not saying it's not true, but yeah, I'm just saying. Anyone who's ever studied a second of military history would know a lot of times these regimes or militaries fall because of incompetency. The odds are skyrocketing that Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado makes her grand return to the country as Venezuela flocks to the streets in Miami.
Jerseys,
I don't know. We'll see. Let's see what this is.
This is in Doral, Florida. Doral, Florida, home to the Venezuelan community. It is the center, really, of Venezuelan life, not only in Miami, but in the United States. And you can see here, you have folks in the Venezuelan jerseys, the colors of the Venezuelan flag. They are at a gas station there with their cell phones. I'm sure there's even pots and pans. As somebody who used to live in Miami, I'm sure there's jubilant celebration here. But I also think, obviously, some concern and about what's next. I mean, we have to remember, folks, 8 million Venezuelans were forced to leave Venezuela. That's more than a quarter of Venezuela's population under the dictatorship of Nicolás.
I mean, we have to assume the Trump administration had something lined up. In my personal opinion, we have to assume if we didn't just go in there and we just snatch somebody and we're just gonna hope and pray that a country does well. I think, again, my opinion, we have to assume that the Trump administration, at the very least, lined something up in where it would play favorably for the United States, in my opinion, because that's the number one threat when it comes to a quote-unquote regime change. What if you do all of that only to get somebody who's 10 times worse and they're going to replace the man who's going to get some vengeance for him? You know what I mean? So we have to assume that something was lined up in the favor of the Trump administration, United States. That's my opinion. Zombie says it's called a liberation.
Nicolás Maduro, and you've had hundreds of thousands, 6, 7, 800,000 people who have come here to the United States as refugees, doctors and highly educated people who have come to their families in Miami, left everything back home in Venezuela. This is
okay. Press conference should be happening here in a minute or 2 minutes. Chuck says, I work with a bunch of Hispanics, a couple of Cubans, and the rest I think are Mexican, but they are so happy right now. You should see them all running around crazy. They hope Cuba is next. Hey, people keep saying Cuba might be next. And again, there happens to be one country who has a base in Cuba that is considered not our ally or friend. That would be the country of China.
in Doral, Florida.
These types of events have massive implications against the adversaries of the United States. This is not only a we save people because of drugs. That's a massive part of it, but it's also, hey, Russia, China, just so you guys know, you guys think you can pick apart Africa and take all these countries and do whatever you want to do. Well, we just did that in 2 hours, so. Here's a live stream in Venezuela. Again, waiting for this press conference. Should be starting here pretty soon. Should be. President Trump pretty much did the press conference already on Fox News, so Yeah, that's a really good question. Hey, can you explain, in your opinion, what red line would be for the USA to not attack a country? I agree with military operation. I just find people who still want to defend the dictatorship. I think this is a perfect example of what that quote-unquote red line is. Justifying the fact of how many Americans have lost their lives, not in the sense of this country directly attacked us, but you have the facilitation of a dictator. You have a dictator who's harming his own people. You have somebody who's suppressing everyone, not allowing for the freedom to express yourself. And it is directly harming the United States, and the leadership of the United States has the direct responsibility to make sure citizens are protected and safe. And as the most powerful military in the world, we also do have this, we have to go out there and do what we need to do in order to protect the people who cannot defend themselves. That's how we've always operated as a country. That's what we've always done. And I do think this would be a perfect example of how things can get done. And this is honestly the most peaceful way it could have ever been done. Because if we had to, we could have absolutely knocked out their whole military in about 20 seconds. If we had to. And I think that's not even sarcastic, because we just pulled that operation off in 2 hours. So that really does go to show that's how powerful the U.S. military is. That's my personal opinion. You guys can let me know how you feel about it. We also really have to remember, again, this is a huge pushback against China and Russia. I do think China and Russia have been beating us in the sense of working with other countries we should be working with. We should be friends with way more countries than we are, but we keep trusting other partners to do the work for us. Prime example, in Africa, we should be cool with the country of Niger, and now because France, they screwed up in Niger, they gave us a very bad look. We got kicked out of Niger, and guess who swooped on in? Russia. And there are other African countries too where we could be amazing partners. Everything should be good, but other countries keep screwing it up on our behalf. And now you can see, when it's just us and we take care of the problem, we get it done. T-SPLY, how do you know it was 2 hours? Well, that's what the report is. That's what people keep saying. It was like a 2-hour operation. Yeah, so that's my opinion. Jarfly says, let's just overthrow every country who has a bad leader. Why don't we worry about America's no third world? Yeah, I do think this was worrying about Americans. If you don't think this was an operation that would save Americans and others as well, I mean, you do have to do a little more research into what was happening, in my personal opinion. Quote unquote helping Americans, that also does mean going above and beyond outside of the borders to help Americans when there are bad people who are willing to let Americans lose their lives because they don't care. All right, let's continue. Oh, let's see what Scott Jennings has to say. I have to thank Scott Jennings for my political career, by the way. When I first started off commentary, I used to react to Scott Jennings. Again, we are waiting for this press conference. It should be starting at some point.
As well, say, hold on a second, do we want to start another war?
Good question. Well, I don't think it's very America first to let a narco-terrorist state with an illegitimate government that's aligned with China and Russia and Iran do things in our hemisphere.
There you go. I mean, this is a perfect example. It's not America first if we're letting people get set up to hurt Americans. It just isn't.
That we don't like.
And we also have the technology to do what we need to do anywhere in the world.
Drugs or anything else. I don't think we like it that they're trying to go into Guyana right now and take over their oil either. And so the president's position has always been, this is the Western Hemisphere. We're going to police it. And we don't even recognize these guys as a legitimate government. And so he's trying to bring about a situation where the worst people in the hemisphere are not enriching themselves, not distributing drugs. And if we wind up with a legitimately elected government there that's aligned with the United States instead of Russia, China, and Iran, that's America first.
I'd love to add some facts to this.
Okay. I think it's going to be starting here pretty soon. Let me just get this lined up here. We'll just get this over here. Yeah, I'm very curious what the president is going to say. Again, he talked a lot on Fox News. He gave a lot of information already, so I am wondering what else is he going to say? I have no idea. Knight says, in my personal opinion, the operation had to be done. The quote-unquote war on drugs is part of the legal excuse, but there are other factors more important than that and other worse countries to fight. And look, I am not disagreeing with you that, again, I just said this not too long ago. We call everything a war, and I do think at times we use that language to justify certain things. The war on fast food, the war on everything is called a war. But in this sense, I do think there are times when the U.S. military does things where we look for justification. In my personal opinion, if you ever needed some clear justification, this would be that time where I think way more people would say this was a good thing than bad, in my opinion. Or not. Waiting to see. Let's see what else we got. I don't want to play that because it's going to look like it's the press conference, that video. Democrats are outraged. I'll be honest with you, I don't know exactly what the talking point is other than we just started a war. That seems to be what the main narrative is from certain Democrat political figures. I think I just saw one pop up. Yeah, here we go. So this is Senator Chris Van Hollen. If you guys don't know who this is, that is the senator who went down to El Salvador to go see Kilmar Obrego Garcia, who is still on trial for human trafficking, by the way. Although he is free as of right now and he cannot be deported, he still does have to face trial for human trafficking. Here's what the senator had to say. He says, Trump and his cronies can try to dress this up, but it is an illegal act of war to replace Maduro and grab Venezuela oil for his billionaire buddies. Wow. Okay. What do you guys think about that? Hey everybody, good to see you guys. And again, if you're new here, make sure to please subscribe and make sure to please like the video because I want to do a whole reaction to all of the blowback and what people are saying. Because this is going to be the main thing we talk about in the media here for the next few days, if not weeks. And by the way, my position is we are allowed to question what's happening here. Absolutely, but I'm just trying to show you guys this is what the narrative seems to be as far as the opposition. This is from Van Hollen, again, the guy who went down to El Salvador to go see Kilmar Obrego Garcia. The American people did not ask for this act of war to bring about regime change in Venezuela, well, you guys can leave your comments what you think about that. That first sentence alone. Nor did Congress authorize it. President Trump has put our troops in harm's way, and he has not provided a clear fact-based rationale for these actions, nor the long-term strategy following these strikes. This administration owes the American people and Congress immediate answers. This act of war is a grave abuse of powers by the president. The Trump administration is repeating the worst mistakes of our past and endangering American lives. Wow. And their motive for doing so is a farce. Trump seized Maduro and his wife just weeks after he pardoned former Honduran president and notorious convicted drug kingpin Juan Orlando Hernandez. Maduro is a dictator. Somebody left a good comment before. A lot of people are pointing out the ones who are criticizing this are leaving that to the very end of the statements or comments. They will say Maduro is a dictator, but this is the second member of government who has said that at the very end of the statement and did not lead with that. That's one thing I've noticed. But his regime did not pose the immediate threat necessary to warrant U.S. military action on foreign soil with Congress approval, which in my opinion, if we got to that point, would put way more Americans at harm. This is not about demolishing a dictatorship. As we've seen, Trump cozies up to dictators around the world. These are some massive accusations. This is about trying to grab Venezuela's oil for Trump's billionaire buddies. Congress must not abdicate its constitutional authority and allow control of the world's most powerful military to fall into just one set of hands. Interesting. What are your comments on that? Again, we are still waiting on this press conference, just so you guys know. Just so you guys know. Yeah, this is going to be a very hard talking point, in my opinion, as far as trying to defend this, to be honest with you. I am so curious how this is going to get spun. But again, talking about oil here, interesting. Jasmine Crockett. That's who I've honestly been waiting for. Jasmine Crockett's. Yeah, this is who I've been waiting for, honestly. When it comes to geopolitics, I usually go to Jasmine Crockett to see what she has to say. She's really, she's good. And she's running for Senate, just so you guys know. All right. This is when we see... Oh, and by the way, Jasmine Crockett a few days ago asked whether or not Trump had enough proof that IS was in Nigeria. I was almost about to make a video on that. So here's what she has to say. This is when we see who is serious about their oath and who isn't. This president continues to exceed his powers because Republicans care more about a pat on the head than they do being patriots. Our troops, our land, our citizens, and our standing in the world are being put at risk. If Republicans are so supportive of his acts, then he could have come to Congress for approval. But he's been allowed to unconstitutionally grab immigrants, then U.S. citizens, off the streets because too many people continue to pretend like this is nothing more than a game. I have no idea what she is comparing that last point to and this supposed, well, she's not even calling it an act of war. I'm disgusted at how feckless and weak elected leaders are being in this moment. I'll put it this way. If the justification for grabbing a president comes from having indictments, which it looks like Jasmine Crockett is identifying Maduro as the legitimate president, something tells me this precedent won't age well. All right. So that's what Jasmine Crockett had to say, and I honestly was very curious what she had to say, because when Jasmine Crockett puts out statements, they're usually pretty interesting. So that's from Jasmine Crockett. Hours after this event, mind you. Again, we are still waiting for this press conference. It should be starting here pretty soon. Yeah, Jar says, I'm all for control of hemisphere, but this is not about drugs. I am very curious if the Trump administration will talk about China or Russia. I am very curious. For anybody who knows anything about geopolitics, you would know that this is deeper than the drugs. But obviously when it comes to political messaging, I think it's hard to explain to people that you have Wagner Group, a Russian mercenary group who's out there, and Russia uses this group to talk to other dictators like we see in Africa. You know, it's a whole thing when it comes to explaining. And I'm curious. We'll see if he does that here soon. Finally caught a stream. Thank you for being here, Satarak6. I appreciate you. And make sure you guys are please subscribing and maybe turning on the notification helps. I have no idea anymore. I have no idea what works on YouTube when it comes to the notification. But yeah, we are still waiting here. Make sure you guys are please liking the stream. It helps out a ton. And we should be live here soon. Everyone is gearing up. Oh, I am so curious what the questions are going to be too. I really need to know what these questions are going to be at this press conference. Knight11 says, that's exactly what I think. I agree with you on the bigger picture. Yep. Like someone said, if we, Jim said, like someone said, if we would have went to Congress and Dem would have called Maduro, letting him know we were coming. I was actually watching Matt Morse's stream before this, and that was one of the points he made as well. And shout out to Matt Morse. He's amazing. If you guys are subscribed to him, make sure to subscribe. Obama didn't ask for congressional approval to get Osama bin Laden. Just Google it. That's from 11 Bravo 72. And thank you for your service. Happy New Year to all of you as well, and God bless all of you guys. Again, we are still waiting. I wouldn't be surprised if President Trump is getting all of the notes ready, considering he was just on Fox News. This is my favorite member of Congress, Tim Burchett. Do you guys like Tim Burchett? He is literally my favorite member of Congress. He is amazing. He doesn't care who you are. If you're doing the wrong thing, he will go after you. He'll let you know you're doing the wrong thing.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. I'm sure everybody's waking up to the news of what's going on in Venezuela right now. They took out Maduro, the dictator down there. He was convicted in drug court. He's a narco-terrorist. They pump tons of that junk into our kids' veins in this country and would do absolutely nothing to stop it, funded by those folks. And he took over Venezuela several years ago, became dictator, seized all the oil production, and currently is the Chinese delegation, Chinese Communist Party, was meeting with him.
What did I just say literally minutes ago? This has bigger implications, China and Russia. But again, when it comes to the messaging, the Trump administration has to explain this as easy as possible for people to understand. And I think to the majority of Americans, by saying, hey, you know, there is a drug problem coming out of that country, it is affecting us, I think that does resonate with a lot of people. And then from there, you can start to explain what else is happening. But Tim Burchett is talking about exactly what we were just talking about.
The Communist Party was meeting with him, and we believe they were orchestrating a partnership with that oil. And of course, they would use that oil when they tried to move on Taiwan. They'd need that in a major military operation like that. So it's really a two-prong type deal. We took out a drug dealer, and we preserved peace in our friends Taiwan in one swoop. Of course, the media is going to be pitching a fit that they were not, and they were left.
For those of you not from the South, pitching a fit means they're going to be upset. Tim Burchett is Southern, man. I love this guy.
Wing of our Congress is upset that they weren't briefed on this. Of course, they weren't briefed. They would have run straight to the media. The same thing they did when Soleimani was taken out. Trump took him out with a strategic missile strike. And so, as you see on the History Channel, what happens with drug dealers, thugs, and international thugs and dictators and mobsters. They always either swing him by a rope, shot in some alley, or take an international perp walk and getting ready to do some serious time. And that's what's going to happen to Maduro. He's been seized, and his wife, DEA, had him. And so I think he'll be away for a long time.
All right. There you go. That's Tim Burchett, and I just saw a report that footage was posted from Rapid Response 47. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Let's see. Apparently the footage was posted of what happened on the ground. Again, we are still waiting for this press conference. Should be happening here soon. Where is it? I can't play that. That's copyright music. We can play it without the music. Again, my number one critique to the Trump administration, they keep using copyright music, and I wish they didn't do that. Sorry. Okay. But I'll just play it for you guys anyway. It's Fortunate Son. And here are the helicopters. And let me tell you something. As somebody who is in the 101st Airborne and has been in those types of formation flights, it's a little nerve-wracking because, yeah, when operations are done at night in the dark and you got explosions going on in the background, yeah. I think Fortunate Son is the appropriate background music for stuff like this. I'm also really curious what units were involved. Was this SEAL Team 6? Was it, wow, I mean, holy cow, that looks like a strike from, they were on the ground. Is that an airstrike? That looks like from the side of a hill right here. Looks like a helicopter. Dude. Wow. They were not messing around. Holy cow. 160th SOAR, yep. I had the... For those of you who don't know, 160th SOAR is like our elite unit when it comes to infiltration, sending in the troops via helicopters. I had the privilege when I was in the 101st Airborne living at Fort Campbell. We would see the 160th SOAR helicopters fly around and do their thing. They're really good at their jobs. I mean, they're the best of the best pilots. Damn. Yeah, they were not messing around. And again, if you guys want to go watch this with a Fortunate Son music in the background, you can go to Donald J. Trump's social medias. Yeah, it did look like a MH6. Wow. Yeah, Trump media is all over this too as far as the messaging. No, I don't think they took out the power grid either. I didn't hear that. I saw somebody say that they took out the power grid, but I don't think they would have done that. Again, this was like, that would have been bad if there were casualties as far as civilian casualties, obviously. This was meant to go after two targets, husband and wife. Okay, we are still waiting. Just to show you guys, still waiting. Everyone's waiting. A lot of anticipation. And I think the Trump administration wants everyone to see what is happening here. I really do. I think he wants every single person, allies, enemies, to see what happened. So this is not the first time the Trump administration has pulled this stunt of waiting. Jackson Hinkle, not happy. I don't know if you guys know who Jackson Hinkle is. Breaking: Venezuela President Maduro has declared a state of emergency. He is calling on people to mobilize to defeat imperialist aggression. The Fat Electrician, good friend of mine, said yoink. If you guys don't follow the Fat Electrician, he has some of the best history content on YouTube. What do you guys all think about this, huh? What was your first reaction when you woke up? I'm going to be honest with you, I had no idea what was going on. I thought it was a parade or something. I did not know. I mean, I was shocked. CCD, T-SPLY again, as a veteran, thank you for your service. Prior Air Force, and thank you for your service. I appreciate you. Thank you. This is from the Democrats page. Again, I think the Democrats are going to have a very hard time defending this. I think more people in America resonate with why this happened than the counter to it, in my opinion. Just like we see with the deportations. The Democrats say it's a meme. Mr. President, do you have a New Year's resolution? U.S. launches military strike on Venezuela. Trump says Maduro captured and flown out of country. I don't understand how this is a dig or a bad thing, but interesting post from the Democrats. Literally, the Democrats. Time Patroller says, my reaction, wow, it actually happened. Yep.
Attack, getting bombed from the air.
This is U.S. military vet Mark Wayne. The American people are not behind you. Interesting. Again, make sure you guys please subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to be going over a lot of these reactions at some point. But yeah, we are all waiting for this press conference, man. A lot of anticipation. Jack says, Joey says, why did they want his wife? I guess we're going to hear it in the press conference. Jim said, I still don't get why this happened. I understand the deportation stuff, but I don't get the Venezuela stuff. Yeah, a lot of it has to do with the fact that he is a dictator, treats his people like crap, allows for the, well, first off, working with our enemies of the United States, China, Russia, allowing for drugs to come into our country, being complacent to the security of the United States, things like that. I mean, this could be a 19-hour stream as to why, but those are just at baseline what's happening here. Jada J Girl, I was very surprised, but very pleased. What's worrisome is how ignorant people are about what's happening in Venezuela. Yeah, and when it comes to ignorance, you could have legit ignorance, which means they don't really know what's going on. I am willing to bet the majority of Americans don't know what's going on beyond the drug stuff and beyond knowing that he is a dictator. When you start to dig into the really nerdy stuff of China and Russia, I don't ever expect people to know what's happening because it takes a lot of research. It's almost irrelevant to a lot of Americans. It doesn't affect them directly. The drug stuff does. Or having friends and family who are Venezuelan, that affects them as far as knowing that he's a dictator. So, yeah, and then I do think there are people who know what's going on, but they have to not like Trump. Like, they just have to. James says, my belief is China wants opium war. Yeah, that's what Kash Patel says a lot. FBI Director Kash Patel. MB Sat 75, thank you for being a member. He says, I love that Trump is doing. I love what Trump is doing. Can't wait to hear what he has to say. Love your work, T-SPLY. And thank you so much. I appreciate you. Sorry, I am sick. I've been sick for about like 3 weeks. And we are still waiting. Let's see what other reactions we have. Elon Musk is happy, that's for sure. Elon Musk was one of the first people to come out and... Didn't Maduro threaten to fight Elon Musk in a boxing match? Now for the find out part of F around and find out. Jesse says, so what is happening to the men that followed orders and took out innocent protesters? Happened to the men that followed orders and took out... Jesse, I'm not sure what event you are referring to. I apologize. Yeah, people are happy in the U.S. Again, if you guys are just joining, we are still waiting. Maduro's men? I mean, I have no idea, honestly. Again, everything we're about to hear, we are all hearing it for the first time from the president. I apologize, Jesse. I do not have that answer. Heroes. God bless the United States military.
Asombro.
Okay. Obviously, Argentina is going to be happy. This is from Mario.
I've never seen anything like this. I was able to watch it in real time, and I watched every aspect of it, and I listened to the communication between, where we were in Florida and out in the field in Venezuela. And it was amazing to see the professionalism, the quality of leadership, the professionalism. General Raisin Kane is fantastic. Don't forget, we did another one not so long ago. It was called the knocking out of the Iranian nuclear threat, the nuclear power. And that was unbelievable what they did there. And this is,
in my opinion, I think that was easier than this operation, in my opinion. Flying in with stealth equipment and taking out those bunkers, I think is easier than rolling in with helicopters, flying NAP, or near of path, near of flight, as low as possible, in the dark, night vision goggles, explosions going off everywhere. Taking a man alive and his wife is harder, in my opinion.
Something that, I don't know, it's amazing. And to have a few injuries, but no death on our side is really amazing.
Yeah, and apparently this was done with no loss of life, which is incredibly difficult. I will definitely be waiting for the History. Does the History Channel still make any like shows other than Pawn Stars? The History Channel would have made an episode about this. That's for sure. Again, when I see videos like this, I'm always very cautious to say they're real or not real, just because a lot of times people on social media will post a video of a parade and then say it's happening now. I am sure there's a lot of people who are celebrating what's happening right now in Venezuela, but I'm very cautious to ever show you guys clips specifically from Venezuela. But this is in Miami, so there's a lot of clips coming out right now of Americans being very happy with Venezuelan descent or Venezuelan families. Yeah, Tim Burchett is awesome, Brian says. Yeah, we also don't know what the injuries are. We're assuming that the injuries could have been gunfire. It could have been somebody spraying their leg. We have no idea. An injury is an injury, though. Okay, this is from the Democrats once again. Again, this looks like this is what's going to be the counter talking point. And I will be covering all of these reactions. Trump didn't brief Congress before last night's Venezuela operation. We'd need Congress. Trump's chief of staff, Susie Wiles, on going to war with Venezuela. What this all comes down to, the definition of what a war is and is not. This is from the Fat Electrician, one of my favorite content creators. If it wasn't for the Fat Electrician, I would not be where I am today as far as content creation and all my production. So thank you to the Fat Electrician. These guys are having the most awkward work trip ever. Chinese officials arrive in Venezuela for talks with President Nicolás Maduro. That is an insane work trip. And again, I would like to assume the Trump administration knew this was happening and that the Trump administration, had all of this set up. I hope that's the case, but if it's not the case, what a coincidence. That is wild. Harry Sissons is upset. If anybody cared what Harry Sissons had to say. Again, I apologize. We are still waiting. Everyone is waiting. We just all want to know what's going on. Say What Now says, buying Battlefield 6 in honor of the occasion. Not a sponsor. Yep. Marco Rubio finding out he is the new Venezuelan president. Marco Rubio at this point, is he going to be in the history books for having every job ever? Yeah, I am going to play him live, no interruptions, I promise. We do need to listen to everything. I'm not going to stop. Say What Now 7365, of course. Thank you for commenting. Wow. Representative Mike Collins says, first time I've seen Democrats upset about arresting a president. The jabs back and forth, man. Marco Rubio sounds familiar. Has AOC talked about this yet? Again, we've watched a lot of interviews prior to this press conference. I mean, we kind of already have an idea of what's happening here.
A week ago, and after reaching no conclusion, there were plans underway about 4 days ago for this operation to get underway, but it was delayed for better weather. And the president said that aside from some injuries to U.S. forces, which we are still awaiting details on what that looks like and who exactly was injured, this was considered a huge success. There were no aircraft that were lost, and congressional leaders have been giving statements of support. They did indicate that they didn't get a heads up on this, but the statements that we've seen come in from Republicans have framed it more as an extradition that was justified than a military operation that was aimed at effectuating regime change.
Yeah, and I agree with this statement. Now, from David, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I appreciate it. As you were a former military personnel, did you like how it ended so quickly, or would you have to like boots on the ground like in Baghdad? I like how this went. I want to be on record and say this is how it should have gone down. Okay? No boots on the ground at all. This was perfect. And this goes to show the U.S. military has adapted in its ways. We have the ability to do what we need to do in these types of operations, and we have the most well-trained military fighting force in the world. We just do. And the fact that 1/60th SOAR was involved, the most elite helicopter pilots in the world. Thank you for the $5 donation. Say what now? Having seen them, I've never been in a combat operation with them or anything like that, but I've seen them train. Man, are they crazy good at their job. They are good. So yeah, this was good. Again, we don't know all of the details, and I am really curious who was involved, like all of the different elements involved. I have to assume we did have people on standby, like the 75th Ranger Regiment, only because we know we always have a rapid response force. In case this all went bad, we have people ready to be boots on the ground, but we'll see. Half of Congress is lawyering up. Knight says they used a MH-47 Chinook on steroids to perform the Delta Force assault. Yes, those things are fast and quiet. This is not the press conference, so I'm not going to be playing that. I don't want to confuse anybody. We are still waiting. CCD said, I bet his personal guard was given subway punch cards and they were like, okay, he's over here. Yeah, I'm really curious. What happened on the ground? What did that all look like? Here's Marco Rubio. Thank you for the $5 donation. Pedro, thank you so much, guys. I appreciate you. You do not have to do that, but thank you.
The foreign policy, the State Department is not its own government.
And I apologize for the low audio.
Okay? The Secretary of State is not its own government. I'm appointed by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and then, or nominated by the president, confirmed by the Senate, and then appointed by the president. But at the end of the day, the person the people of the United States elected to be the president of the United States and the commander-in-chief is Donald J. Trump. That's who they elected. And my job, and the job of the people in our administration, is to implement the president's foreign policy. We provide advice, we provide counsel, but ultimately...
All right, here we go, guys. I'm going to be quiet. Please like the live stream.
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff. We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolás Maduro to justice. This was one of the most stunning, effective, and powerful displays of American military might and competence in American history. And if you think about it, we've done some other good ones, like the attack on Soleimani, the attack on al-Baghdadi and the obliteration and decimation of the Iran nuclear sites just recently in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. It's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, maybe like never before. These highly trained warriors, operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement, caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea. We were just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in a ready, what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment on the planet. By far, with capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have, and you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country. The proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave.
Wow.
If we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, the many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship. They'll be heading to, ultimately, New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over, in particular, the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard, because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. It's been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and we're doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now, and crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but crime is down now 77%. And the governor of Louisiana called, great person, and he wanted us to help him, as you know, in a certain very nice part of Louisiana, and we have done that. And it was a rough section, and we have crime down. I understand it's down to almost nothing already after 2.5 weeks. New Orleans, it's down to almost nothing, and we've only been there for 2.5 weeks. Can't imagine why governors wouldn't want us to help. We also helped, as you know, in Chicago, and crime went down a little bit there. We did a very small help because we had no working ability with the governor. The governor was a disaster and the mayor was a disaster, but it knocked down crime. But we're pulling out of there. When they need us, we'll know. You'll know. You'll be writing about it. And likewise, Los Angeles, where we saved Los Angeles early on, where the head of the police department made a statement that if the federal government didn't come in, we would have lost Los Angeles. That's long after the fires.
I'm sorry, I just have to say this. I feel like we just skimmed over the fact that we control Venezuela, and now we're talking about all of these state issues. I mean, I think a lot of us have a lot of questions of what exactly is going on here, but I'm sorry for interrupting. I just have to say, everybody on the internet right now is freaking out. Like, everyone's like, what is going to happen? And we're, like, talking about Louisiana. So I just want to throw it out there.
To being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people. And now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years, I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst. They say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungary. What happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. Instead, they fought wars that were 10,000 miles away. We built Venezuela oil industry with American talent, drive, and skill, and the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive oil infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. And not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation. This morning, it's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the president said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry, and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has your back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve, the most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice, all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolás Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country, deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people, deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us, and deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our chairman, Chairman Raising Cane, to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolás and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the Air National Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force in self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolás Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
make sure.
Yeah, exactly. But
don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolás Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when he tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States, and the president addressed it. There's a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy, but instead he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk and meet with anybody, but don't play games. Don't play games with this president's in office, because it's not going to turn out well. And so I hope that I guess that lesson was learned last night, and we hope it'll be instructive moving forward.
Is that a message for Cuba, Mr. President?
Please. Well, we're going to be running it with a group, and we're going to make sure it's run properly. We're going to rebuild the oil infrastructure, which will cost billions of dollars. It'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but that's going to be paid. And we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
President, does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
Yes, it's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be for a period of time the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, you know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in the military. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Rubio would be...
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Mr. President, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, a couple weeks ago, he said he's got to watch his ass. And today he said he's not concerned about anything happening to him in the aftermath of this operation. So just what your message is about that.
Well, he has cocaine mills. He has factories where he makes cocaine. And, yeah, I think I stick by my first statement. He's making cocaine. They're sending it into the United States. So he does have to watch his ass.
Mr. President, did you notify any members of Congress in advance?
Marco, do you want to talk about that? Because you were involved in it.
Sure. We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here, but it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Plus, if I could add one thing to that, Congress has a tendency to leak. This would not be good. If they leaked, General, I think it would have been maybe a very different result. But I have to say, they knew we were coming at some point, you know. We had a lot of ships out there. They sort of knew we were coming. We went through. But Congress will leak, and we don't want leakers.
To watch this all play out live. What was Maduro doing when the U.S. forces entered what I assume would be his home? And also, was there any point where the U.S. was considering if Maduro pushed back or resisted killing Maduro?
It could have happened. It could have happened. He was trying to get into a safe place. You know what a safe place is, all steel. And he wasn't able to make it to the door because our guys were so fast. They went through the opposition so fast. And there was a lot of opposition. You know, people were wondering, do we get them by surprise? Sort of surprised, but they were waiting for something. It was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of gunfire. You saw some of it today. But he was trying to get to a safe place, which wasn't safe because we would have had the door blown up in about 47 seconds, they say on average, regardless of how thick the steel was. It was a very thick door. It was a very heavy door, but he was unable to get to that door. He made it to the door. He was unable to close it. Go ahead, finish.
Where is Maduro going to be in the time being right now? Do you know his exact
Well,
whereabouts?
eventually, ultimately, in the near future, he's going to be brought to New York.
And where is he going to be held? Where is he going to be held in New York? Do you know?
That's going to be up to the officials that do these things.
Mr. President, the U.S. has something of a mixed track record of ousting dictators without necessarily a plan for what comes afterwards.
Not with
Did
me.
that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't successful with Midnight Hammer, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. So, with me, you've had a lot of victory. You've had only victories. You've had no losses. Yeah.
How long do you expect the U.S. to run Venezuela, and how soon do you want the Venezuelan people to hold elections?
So I'd like to do it quickly, but it takes a period of time. You know, we're rebuilding. We have to rebuild their whole infrastructure. The infrastructure is rotted. It's actually very dangerous. It's blow-up territory. Oil is very dangerous. It's a very dangerous thing to take out of the ground. It can kill a lot of people. It has killed a lot of people doing just that. The infrastructure is old. It's rotted. Much of it is stuff that we put there 25 years ago, and we're going to be replacing it. And we're going to take a lot of money out so that we can take care of the country. Yeah.
Are you saying that Secretary Rubio and
Mr. President, China, Russia, and Iran have interests in Venezuela. How does this operation affect your relationships with them when it comes to the oil and drugs?
And Russia, Russia when we get things straightened out. But in terms of other countries that want oil, we're in the oil business. We're going to sell it to them. We're not going to say we're not going to give it. In other words, we'll be selling oil probably in much larger doses because they couldn't produce very much because their infrastructure was so bad. So we'll be selling large amounts of oil to other countries, many of whom are using it now, but I would say many more will come.
Are you saying, Mr. President, are you saying that, Mr. President, are you saying that? Oh.
Mr. President, thank you. What is your message to the people of Venezuela today? Of course, the civilian population specifically, they have a lot of questions. What is your message to the people of Venezuela?
That you're going to have peace, justice. You're going to have some of the riches that you should have had for a long period of time. It was stolen from you. But you're going to have peace and you're going to have safety. You're going to have justice. You're going to have a country. You're going to have a real country. You're going to have potentially a great country. You know, if you go back 20 years, maybe even a little longer ago, that was a great country. And they destroyed it. Remember I said that if we lose this election, the United States will be Venezuela on steroids. That's what would have happened. Had we lost the election, the 2024 election, we suffered so badly. When you look at the border from 2020, what they did, what Joe Biden administration did to our country should never be forgotten. But if we had to go through another year of that, we would be exactly where Venezuela was. In terms, I used to say, if they win, we're going to be Venezuela on steroids, and that's what would have happened.
President, thank you. Are you saying that Secretary Hegseth and Rubio are going to be running Venezuela, and will you be sending in U.S. military
troops to provide? They're going to be a team that's working with the people of Venezuela to make sure that we have Venezuela right. Because for us to just leave who's going to take over? I mean, there is nobody to take over. You have a vice president who's been appointed by Maduro, and right now she's the vice president, and she's, I guess, the president. She was sworn in as president just a little while ago. She had a long conversation with Marco, and she said, we'll do whatever you need. I think she was quite gracious, but she really doesn't have a choice. We're going to have this done right. We're not going to just do this with Maduro, then leave like everybody else, leave and say, let it go to hell. If we just left, it has zero chance of ever coming back. We'll run it properly. We'll run it professionally. We'll have the greatest oil companies in the world go in and invest billions and billions of dollars and take out money, use that money in Venezuela. And the biggest beneficiary are going to be the people of Venezuela. And also, I can't stress this strongly enough, the people that got thrown out of Venezuela that are now in the United States, and frankly, some want to stay and some probably want to go back, yeah.
In the country, and were any of the detained Americans?
Well, right now they're very protected because nobody's going to mess with us. They're very protected. The people of, and we let them know that you better not touch one of them.
And are you concerned that bad elements of the Maduro regime will remain in place?
Well, we know who they are. We're on them, and they're acting much differently now than they would have acted 2 days ago. Okay, wait, behind you, please.
Mr. President, why is running a country in South America America first?
Well, I think it is because we want to surround ourselves with good neighbors. We want to surround ourselves with stability. We want to surround ourselves with energy. We have tremendous energy in that country. It's very important that we protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. And we want to make sure we can protect it. Yes, sir. Please, go ahead.
Yeah, is there a message here for Cuba and Diaz-Canel?
Well, Cuba is an interesting case. Cuba is, not doing very well right now. That system has not been a very good one for Cuba. The people there have suffered for many, many years. And I think Cuba is going to be something we'll end up talking about because Cuba is a failing nation right now, very badly failing nation. And we want to help the people. It's very similar in the sense that we want to help the people in Cuba, but we want to also help the people that were forced out of Cuba and living in this country. Do you want to say something about that, Marco, please?
Well, I mean, I just gave you a statement a few minutes ago about, when the president speaks, you should take him seriously. So suffice it to say, Cuba is a disaster. It's run by incompetent, senile men, and in some cases, not senile, but incompetent nonetheless. It has no economy. It's in total collapse. And by the way, they were, all of the guards that helped protect Maduro, this is well known, their whole spy agency, all that were full of Cubans. I mean, it's amazing. This poor island took over Venezuela in some cases. One of the biggest problems the Venezuelans have is they have to declare independence from Cuba that tried to basically colonize it from a security standpoint. So, yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned, at least a little bit.
Cutting off the oil flow to Cuba from Venezuela?
Well, the president already announced a week ago that anything that's sanctioned, it's sanctioned oil, it's not going to be allowed to get there. So that's a pre-existing.
The answer is yes. Yes. No, we haven't. No, we haven't.
Mr. President.
Mr.
President, on Monday.
Oh, I think it would be very tough for her to be the leader. She doesn't have the support within or the respect within the country. She's a very nice woman, but she doesn't have the respect.
Mr. President, is it possible that the U.S. ends up administrating Venezuela for years?
Well, it won't cost us anything because the money coming out of the ground is very substantial, so it's not going to cost us anything. We will. Well, we want safety there. We want to be surrounded by countries that aren't housing all of our enemies all over the world. That's what that was happening, and you don't want to have that. But we're going to be rebuilding, and we're not spending money. The oil companies are going to go in. They're going to spend money. We're going to take back the oil that, frankly, we should have taken back a long time ago. A lot of money is coming out of the ground. We're going to get reimbursed for all of that. We're going to get reimbursed for everything that we spend. So it's going to be a very important. This is a very big evening that took place last night. We have to be surrounded by safe, secure countries, and we also have to have energy. Very important. We have to have energy that's real energy, not where they're getting 4% and 5% of the energy out of the ground. You take a look. It was such a disaster. So what's going to happen with Venezuela, I think, over the next period of a year, is going to be a great thing, and the people of Venezuela will be the biggest beneficiaries.
Going to send in the U.S. military.
Mr. President, thank you. What did you last speak to Maduro about when you spoke? And is the
Well,
US
I don't want to get
war
into
with
the
Venezuela?
conversations, but I did have conversations with him, and I said, you got to surrender. And I actually thought he was pretty close to doing so, but now he wished he did, yeah.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras who was convicted of many drug trafficking.
Just so you guys know, I don't know how much longer we can watch this. You don't understand how many lawmakers who are Democrats are freaking out. If you have social media and you go on X, it's every single thing that you slide through. It's everyone, every single one. They are upset about this. So I have to make a video immediately following this. So we're going to watch this a little longer. But again, it is insane. You guys, I don't know if you understand how much it is.
The head of the country, he was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
You referenced boots on the ground earlier. Can you just sort of button this up? Do you envision the U.S. military having a presence in Venezuela as the U.S. runs that
Well,
country?
no, we're going to have a presence in Venezuela as it pertains to oil, because we have to have, we're sending our expertise in. So you may need something, not very much. But no, we're going to be taking out a tremendous amount of wealth out of the ground. And that wealth is going to the people of Venezuela and people from outside of Venezuela that used to be in Venezuela. And it goes also to the United States of America in the form of reimbursement for the damages caused us by that country. So I want to thank you all very much. Thank you. Do you have one? Yes, please. You were so nice before. I'm going to give you the final question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Unless
President.
it's a bad question, in
It's
which
about
case I'll
Putin.
go one word. It's about who?
It's about Putin, if you want.
About Putin. Well, that's
Okay.
always nice
You had
to
a
talk
phone-
about Putin.
You had a phone call with him
Yeah.
on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't.
And
We
then-
never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people. I thought that would be so. I settled 8 1/4 war. You know what the 1/4 was? Thailand and Cambodia. I did it again. They broke out, and I did it in about 5 hours, and I settled it. I'm giving myself 1/4, so I'm up to now 8 1/4. In other words, I settled the war, but then they broke out. They had a pretty bad breakout over the last 4 days. I got them to.
Okay, that was a weird question. So, all right, from here, people, I have a lot of work to do. I want to make sure you guys are getting the best content as far as what's relevant to what's happening here. There's a lot going on. I mean, we're talking about, we have boots on the ground, that's one aspect, but we're also running a country. The Trump administration is not hiding. This also has to do with oil. I don't think we need to pretend like this is not what's happening here. You are hearing it straight from Trump's mouth. I'm not saying that's bad or good, but as you know, the big thing about the United States and the military, you guys are always just going after oil. Well, Trump is not denying it. He's like, yeah, and we're going to make money from it too. So what are you going to do about it? So look, this is what's happening, guys. This is just the reality of the situation. And I want to be very clear. There are also conservatives who are not happy this is happening. I'm going to do my best to try and find conservatives and Republicans who are also not happy about this. But when I tell you, I think it's every single member of Congress who's a Democrat and senator who is saying they're mad at this or talking about war. It's everyone. So I got to sift through everybody and see what's going on for you guys. David, again, thank you so much for the $5. Thank you for always being neutral and love your videos. Keep up the good work. It's very crucial we do this in love and peace, and we try to be as factual as possible. So thank you so much, David. And yeah, I'm going to do my best. Thank you guys so much for being here. We have a lot of work to do. Turn on the notifications. I think that might help. But yeah, get ready for the next video. It should be coming out very soon. We have a lot of work to do. Thank you guys so much for everything. God bless, and we will see you all later. Very soon, actually. All right. Bye, guys. Love you.